was trying to describe him to the people that come to my courses at Trilogy, he was a trust fund kid with an interest in magic. And
he was a hipster, yeah.
It's a Greek word that means will, like the will to do things. First of all, what is this? Is a religion? It is like a magical system? It's a philosophy? I would say it's all these things according to what it might has to be for you.
He reminds me of like a DJ, right? He's like mixing and remixing like beats from different sorts of genres to make like a cohesive piece. How disciplined are you with your magic?
Way less than I should be. I've been very disciplined for a long time, or when I was younger, and I was
what
starting.
Does that look like? What does that look like, that discipline? Like, what would your average day look like when you were really disciplined?
Well, my average day would be like, waking up at 6 a.m. To do the first step of what is called Liber. Liber is a Telemic ritual whereby you salute the sun at the 4 stations, so at dawn, at midday, twilight, and then at midnight. So I would do that every day. So I would wake up at 6, or wake up whenever the sun rises, so maybe earlier during the summer, and then basically like set that day, and then have every day working with the tarot, studying it, every day working with the pentagram and hexagram rituals, banishing, evoking, every day having times of silent meditation, every day there's something in Crowley. There's all sorts of exercises in Liber E and Liber O, and one a famous one is you should try and speak without using the verb to be, which is also very useful. And they say every time you do it, you should cut yourself on your arm to just remember. And of course, then if you read Duquette's book, it's like, well, you don't really have to cut it. You can just have a rubber band. You just flick yourself every time you do it. Well, when I was younger, I did cut myself because of course that's what edgy kids get, right? So that was the level of discipline I had, and I had it for a good 10 years. And I guess
how did you find the results of your magic because you were so disciplined?
I would argue, yes, definitely. I would say that you cannot get points of any system, it's just the dilemma of any system, unless you devolve yourself to it, day to day, for a period of time. At some point, I felt like it was started when I was 15, when I was 25, 27, I felt like, I had this experience, I did it, I can get more relaxed about it. But even today, when I have to prepare for a ritual, especially if something that we do publicly, like we did 1-2 days ago for Halloween, you want to prepare yourself with a more disciplined regime, at least for, I would say, a week before. And for me, a more disciplined regime these days, for instance, having a very strong sleeping pattern, abstaining for all kind of excesses because you want to go more inward. That's abstaining from sex of all kind, because again, you want to sexual energy being energy. You want to keep it inside you till then you expand it on the day of the ritual, which doesn't have to be a sexual ritual, but any kind of ritual. That kind of energy is good to keep it inside before ritual. And eating well, exercising more. And I was running Gnostic masses as priest or deacon in an Ameth lodge. Then I would do the same. We would do a grand mass every month. They still do. And by the way, if you're in London, go to Ameth lodge and see their masses because they're very good. And they're generally good people. That's really good. And then, as I said, you prepare yourself before the ritual, and it can be very strict and very disciplined.
Let me ask you about the lesser banishing ritual. So I think that's oftentimes, for me at least, that was one of the first things that I did that was sort of high magic.
Step forward with the left foot. At the same time, thrust your arms forward so that your hands point to the middle of the pentagram before you, the sign of the Enterer.
So I was told, oh, you need to do this every single day, and what it's going to do is it's going to banish all the bad spirits around you. Now I'm learning that it's not actually a banishing, that it's you're actually calling in angels, but then you're not telling them what to do, so it's not that. Anyways, people are telling me lots of different things. What is LBRP? Why do people do it, and what's the best way to do it? Because I think a lot of people, they do it, and that's the first thing that they learn how to do.
It's a good exercise, because it's about a banishing, and what a banishing is like just, almost like taking an astral shower before doing anything else. Maybe, dusting your astral space before doing it. And that is definitely true, that it's both an invocation and an evocation. Like, you pull certain energies inside you, and then you project these energies in the quarters around you in order to have, almost like having those pillars around you that then you can go back into the middle and do whatever else you want to do. Or even doing just that. It is a great way of just becoming acquainted with the feelings of magic. There are many different ways of doing it. And especially, personally, it's not one that I use much anymore, because what I use is called the Star Ruby, which is the Thelemic version of it. And it substitutes like the names of the archangels with the Thelemic gods. Like you have like Babylon and Therion, you have Nunit and Adit instead of Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel. So in a way that can kind of give you a Thelemic spin. And also, so there are other ways for it, but let's keep it simple. I would say that the best way of learning it is just going back to, it comes from the Golden Dome, right? So just going back to Israel Regardi's big tome on the Golden Dome, see what he says, and just try it. That is good. That is good enough. I would say that if you do a ritual like this constantly, and if you, it's not like you become a Superman or anything like that. But by repetition and by opening yourself to these channels, you can start to get insights about what his energies really are. Because when you think about, for instance, the four archangels, those are, again, they are symbols of the elements. So what you're really doing with the pentagram is it's a ritualistic way to establish the elements in the space around you and inside you, in order that interaction of these fundamental energies will open yourself to your fifth element. So that's the pentagram, like when you get to the fifth point. And if you want to have another look at it, when you say, what are the elements? You have earth. What does it mean? Well, think of earth as body sensations. So if you invoke earth, you will become more aware of your body, what your body feels, what you feel in your bones, really. When you think about air, it's your thoughts. When you think about fire, it's your emotions. When you think about water, it's your feelings. And these are four fundamental blocks of the human experience, because most of the times we can be, we cannot feel, maybe we don't feel good about our bodies. And so that's when maybe you want to invoke earth. We have like very heavy things, then we can dispel them like with air. We have like, maybe we are going through terrible heartbreak, and that's where you want to rebalance your feelings and your emotions to water and fire. So by doing this interplay of these four fundamental elements, then you can reach your fifth element. That's where you can really get a connection with the spirit. And by doing that, you're finally able, having established those four pillars, and you being the center, the fifth one in the middle, you are finally able to open yourself to more deeper and more high magical works, which is going and meeting the gods, whatever the gods are for you.
Wait, so LBRP is, would you say that it's a good daily exercise, like almost like a warm-up? Is that what people should use it for, not so much for banishings?
I would say that they're both things, because by banishing, you are doing a warm-up. Imagine like you want to use this room, and this room is all dusty, right? But you want to use it to dance. So first of all, you warm up by dusting all the room. You're already doing that. You're doing these things together. So banishing, it should always be used by, especially for people that start doing magic. always concentrate on the banishings first before you do anything else. Really, I cannot stress this enough.
Why?
I know it's because it's the one exercise, it's the kind of ritual that will teach you how to feel different things again, but without putting yourself too much at arm's way, because all you're doing is just like is working on yourself and just calling upon you positive energies, if you wish. You can see them as the archangels of the traditional Golden Dawn system. You can see as the gods of telepathy, or you can even see them as straight up elements. But by doing that, you're warming up. You're becoming more familiar with this different feeling, and nothing bad can really come from it, really. Whereby lots of people that especially I read on online, that's going like work with Goetia, immediately that's going like evoke demons. I've done it. I mean, it's definitely something that it's good to do. It's definitely good to do because that's the next step. But that is the next step. You want to balance yourself first before opening yourself up to something different. So yeah, don't do that, kids. just start with banishing. Banishing is good.
For a completely new magician going into ceremonial magic, and who wants to do it from a more thelema sort of framework, what would you suggest they start with?
I would say the middle pillar before the lesser banishing ritual.
Focusing and vibrating the God name helps keep your mind concentrated. Yehovah Elohim.
Because the middle pillar can be done. You can put up like path working. I recorded one for my students, and so basically you listen to the voice of someone else that guides you. Okay, so and it's very passive. You don't have to remember signs. You don't have to remember names. You really don't have to vocalize much. When you do, you basically repeat someone else's voice, so it's easier. I would say so. Middle pillar is what I always suggest everybody to start with.
For how long?
And I would say, well, all of them for about 6 months. It's very minimum. Yeah, that's a lot of time. I know.
Most people are going to be like, I want to do all that, crazy stuff quicker than 6 months. But you're recommending 6 months.
I'm not one for shortcuts. Possibly because I did take shortcuts when I was younger, and it didn't work out. It can be, when I was very young, I was like, I don't need to do all these things. I get it, and my results were not as good as then when I decided to go back and say, you know what, let's stick to the plan, even if it feels boring. But having a 6 months plan whereby you decide for a very simple set of rituals. Okay, let's say the middle pillar, the LBRP, maybe Liber, which is that 4 days salutations of the sun. You do that for 6 months while writing also a magical diary, which is again it's a fundamental practice that everybody says, oh, I don't need to write a diary. No, you do, because it's a practice as well. It's like, you put your will towards doing every day something that might feel boring, and it does, trust me. I mean, I hate writing. I'm not a writer myself. Gods, I hate that. I hate it, doing it. But not only puts you in a different perspective, like I'm doing this and I'm sticking to this plan, it's also very useful going back after many years, going back to what you wrote and reading some insights maybe you forgot. And maybe you wrote something down that only makes sense many years later. And this is how like Western Hermetic tradition, magical tradition, that's how it works. Like putting together almost scientifically, I mean, Crowley did speak about scientific Illuminatus after all, a series of notes that you can then go back and make sense of. So I would say you cannot do it without this at least 6 months of intense, everyday work on something that seems very simple and maybe very boring. But I would argue that if you do it rightly and if you stick to the plan, even like 1 month in, like the LBRP will feel different. 2 months in, the LBRP will feel different. After 6 months of doing it every day, I'm not sure if you then will see, the angels appearing as Regardi and others say, but maybe you will, because this is like really is like going to the gym. It's almost like a gym for the spirit. You want to do it again and again and again. You want to be disciplined about it because that's when you really see the difference. It is definitely true that magic can exist by understanding a sigil, writing down a sigil, activate a sigil, whatever you want, and then get results. But my experience in doing that kind of approach, or my chaos magical approach, is that it worked only for very simple things, which is like, I want to get laid, I want to get a better job, which, for most people that's all it matters, and that's fine, I'm not judging. But if your end game is like, I want to transcend the human condition, which is the end game for magic, I want to create an alchemical formula inside me that transcends the lead, that is humanity, into the goal, that is God, or gods, whatever you want to say. That requires a complete different set of approaches, and you cannot do without really going for the basics for a long time.
You know what? I think you're completely right about that, because if I'm looking back to my magical journey, it took about 6 to 8 months of doing a lot of shadow work, a lot of things that didn't seem very magical first. I wasn't really throwing a lot of spells. I was just doing tons and tons and tons of shadow work and just a lot of like energy work. And it was only after that, and I was doing a lot of chakra work actually. Take the shortcuts. Maybe if you wanted something and you do it one time and it happens, it's almost like because you didn't expect it to happen, it'll happen. But then you try to repeat it again, and it doesn't work.
Or it won't work out again. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, what you're saying has been my experience as well. I would argue because like we are almost like a battery, right? And we need to our magical mystical body, if you wish, needs to be activated and then sustained in order to then produce the energy needed to do whatever it is that you want to do. And of course, we're using highly unscientific terminology because magic is not science, or rather, magic can be approached in a scientific method, which is again, it's what Crowley wanted to do, and what Telema should really do. But at the end of the day, we're talking about things that science has not codified yet. Maybe it will one day, maybe not. What is important is that by doing certain things, certain results happen. And I'm quoting Crowley again, because in Magic in Theory and Practice, he writes, not quoting verbatim, but it was like, in this book, we speak of Sephiroth and planes and gods. It's not important to know if those things are real or not. What is important is that if we do certain things, certain results happen. And that is, I would say, that is the scientific approach to magic, and it's what we've been discussing right now. Like, by sticking to the plan, by creating like a roadwork from zero to hero, and by sticking to that, then we can then say, okay, yes, I will obtain results. If sigil magic, which is, again, I always go back to it and I want to explain it. Sigil magic is incredibly powerful. But imagine if you do sigil magic, you throw your sigil once and it works. And then you do it again after having done the 6 months of intense, work on yourself. Then it's not working. It's going to be like you can do sigil about everything, and it will always hit. That's the way about it. So I'd say that even if you decide to go for a more deconstructivist approach to magic, which is sigils again, having that kind of background, having that kind of I would say physical education about magic, it will pay a lot. So
yeah, it's just like a young Wiccan people who are doing candle magic. Now you take a very experienced witch, and she could do candle magic, and it's going to be some powerful, intense shit. But a lot of young people, they just do the candle magic, thinking they'll get the same results, but they haven't done the energy work or all that shadow work beforehand, so their results are, So again, it's like when people come to me and they're just like, well, I did the same ritual you did, but I didn't get the same results, therefore magic is not real. Saying, well, you didn't do the, 8 months of energy work that I did beforehand. So you didn't do the same thing that I did.
Precisely. And I will also argue that, that's also fine, because it could, in academic terms, I would say that's not their will to work with magic. Magic is something that everybody can do if it's their will. And, that implies if you put all the necessary effort to get to the point. Some people don't, and that's fine. That's okay as well. We cannot force people to do what they don't want to do. I mean, that's anathema to them. It really is.
I know that Crowley, he wrote a ritual to get knowledge and contact with your holy guardian angel. So have you done that?
I've done that. I've done that many, many years ago. Well, what Crowley did, really, he tried to enact a ritual with the Abramelin work, which is a very intense, this is a 6-month work, of doing way more than just like middle pillar and crash gun. And you have to go and basically have a specific house away from the world with a specific temple, and basically for 6 months do intense invocations and evocations every day. I tried that, and I didn't stick to the 6 months, but I honestly with you, I wasn't doing all the things right. When I arrived to the knowledge and conversation of my holy guardian angel, I did it through a private ritual. Because what Crowley also writes is that while, Abramelin is a way through it, he then writes something called Liber Samekh for one of his disciples at the Abbey of Dilemma, and that's a way that was right for that person. He also says that each and everybody has to find their ritual that will get them to their own God, because the holy guardian angel can be understood on one level as your personal God, your personal connection with Godhood. Okay, and that's so. That means that every rituals you write, every rituals you read, can only be an inspiration for you to go and create your own ritual.
Oh, he's so chaos magic, yeah.
But in a way, it is, because only you can know the name of your God, and I cannot know the name of your God. You cannot know the name of mine. So how are you going to call something that for someone else? Like even Crowley Liber Samekh, he wrote something that is very based on the ritual of the headless one, and on Goetia, but at the end of the day, it's also like tailored for this person. And even then, the specific person should have done work to change it for itself. Whenever I've been asked in Dilemma Without Tears, we did a Liber Samekh, and I really rushed things on that course, but it worked.
Wait, for that ritual, okay, so Abramelin, it takes like at least 6 months, right? How about for Liber Samekh?
Well, Liber Samekh is way faster. It can be done from beginning to the end in a couple of hours, and so it's still very long. It still requires a lot of focus, and you need to be familiar with a lot of gestures, words, etc. But it can be done. Of course, the concept is that what I told the students at the Dilemma Without Tears course is like, we're doing this as an example of what it's like to put together a ritual towards that experience. You will not get that experience from this ritual because we haven't done the years of work that you get. And also because it was done for a specific person. But something that I had a very good feedback, because a couple of people wrote me back and was like, this inspired me to write this. What do you think about it? And you can tell it that even by trying to do something that's very advanced, in a very I would say controlled environment, because I was there and a couple of other people that experienced from the audio and other groups that I met, they were there as well, just to make sure that if anything went wrong, which never really does, but you never know, I could be there. But it definitely did inspire a couple of students to just go through that. Possibly they were already on the path to discover their own their connection with the guardian angel. And Holy Diamond, Strater Hacker, just published this beautiful book called Holy Diamond for Scarlet Imprint. And it's like his own telling of what the concept is, what he did, and what he suggests people to do. So definitely check that book out. It's amazing. But that's something I did as well in the course. Like I showed you what Crowley suggested to do. And I can tell you, like I said, this couple of people, they're definitely more advanced. Advanced it's not that we're better, but it's like more down the path, if you want. And they're now experienced. They're now trying to come up with better refined versions of their own ritual, and then they'll do it, and possibly they'll have results. So the Holy Guardian Angel is one of the two main points in Dilemma. Like, there's two fundamental steps in Dilemma. The one is the knowledge and conversation, and that is when, after having balanced your pentagram, as we were saying before, you get to know the hexagram. That is, you get into this communion, which can be seen of a spiritual, sexual nature with the Holy Guardian Angel. You receive your Holy Guardian Angel always as the bride in the growth chart. So you always take the role of receiving energies. Like you're a cup that needs to be filled by this divine energy. And that's the most important one, the first important step. The second important step is the crossing of the abyss. That is when you transcend Jupiterially and you enter mystical state of being. So I've done the first step. I haven't done the second. I can have just a general idea of what the second is like, but knowledge and conversation is something that can be done. I would say, like, if you're really dedicated, if you're like Crowley, you have like millions in the bank, so you don't have to work. You can do it in 5 years, maybe even less. Of really focused. It took me 10 years to get there the first time. But I was at university, I was working, I was touring. Between 22 years old, and when I was 33, I pretty much 11 years I was on tour. So yeah, I was doing magic in backstage's room and in hotel rooms pretty much. But it can.
What made you start magic so early?
I started because I found Crowley in an Italian comic book called Martin Mister in the summer of 1990 when I was 12, and that summer was very interesting for me because I had one of my uncles died all of a sudden, and my mom was her favorite brother, so she was very, very sad, and I was very young. I was 12. So I spent that summer mostly on my own reading, even more than I used to do before, because I grew up in this big house with books everywhere, and we were pretty far away from the city center, so I didn't have any friends till I finally started having mid-teens. So I read a lot. In summer of 1990, I discovered Crowley, and then I was like, oh, this is cool. At first, because it's you see this bold man that say the weakest man in the world. I was like, that's cool. And I was a budding goth already, so I was like, oh, he dresses all in black, and he likes demons. That must be cool. So that's how I discovered him. But yeah, I would say that I received my first initiation when I was 18. So yeah, I did start very early, I would say, and I'm 40 now, so it's been quite some time, pretty much. But it still would take me 10 years to, I would say between 18 and 28 before I think I did have the experience of the Holy Guardian Angel.
It's about the long term. I remember talking to Aidan Wachter, and he was saying, magic is a long-term commitment, basically. And just like what you said, rather than shortcuts, if you see it as a long-term investment, then the results, they're so much better.
Yeah, they're so much better, and they're more lasting, and they reverberate on your entire life. Will enrich your life in very simple ways. You'll be better at relationships. You'll be better at your job. You'll be a better person. It doesn't mean that you become magic Jesus, because that's what some people think, and that's what some people get completely deluded. But in general, magic is not just about I'm this degree, or I can see demons, or I can see angels. Magic is about being the best person you can be, and and it's a lifetime commitment because it's about growing into your skin, like into your real skin, finding your true will. It's about that being the best person you can be.
So you've actually had a long career in music.
This is my revenge. Your end, your punishment. Too late to repent. Wicked, you never miss a beat. Drowns up one by another and get it moving here. Beat pound, sicker and sicker. The world has gone away.
So I'm wondering how much the occult and magic influenced your career in music.
In a lot of the songs that I made with XP8 and Faderhead over the years, there are themes, but what I always wanted to avoid is become like an esoteric band or an esoteric musician, because I grew up listening, to black metal, and lots of that was super cringy. Come on, guys, you don't have to try that hard, okay? It's fine. So at the end of the day, it's aesthetics. It works for some people. It worked for me for a while, and then it did not. So for me, it was like, if you read some lyrics from bands, even when I was in record for a while, like there's a lot of like Thelemic references in it, but it's not like in your face. You will never hear about Crowley, or you never really anything like directly from the books. Apart, there's one song called "The Night of Pan," which is definitely like a reference to something specific to Liber, but that's the only song, like all the songs we've done. But if you then the lyrics of some songs, we speak about what I will, and it's been there, it's been disseminated all over the lyrics. At the end of the day, though, what I've became somewhat famous for in that music business is like it's Goth Industrial music, and it was always like dance music for gods. That's what I did. Imagine like a Prodigy. That's something like the closest you can get. So it's a dance music. It's hard hitting. It's not something that you will hear on a Buddha bar compilation, of course. But at the end of the day, it was music made for people to go out and dance and have fun. So to try and then put more overly magical or mystical elements in it, I always felt a bit jarring to me. And then, like I said, I did it for a long time, and then at some point, it's like 2012 more or less, I felt like I need to step back because first of all, that scene kind of died down, and when music is your main breadwinner, when you're doing that as a professional, you also have to think about, well, this is not paying the bills anymore. you need to move on. And I really wanted to do anything else that I was doing. I never wanted to try another genre, and I wanted to do soundtracks or whatnot, because what I really enjoyed about music was like the touring side, like going out and playing and
partying.
Almost partying. Yeah, there was a lot of melodies involved, and that was like sitting in a studio making music for movie soundtracks. That's not me. I've done it, but and that's because I know that's not me, right? For me, it was almost about performing more than producing. My friend Sammy, which is a singer of Faderhead, is still going. In fact, in 2 weeks, I'm playing with them in Germany again, because I haven't done it. Last time I was on stage was 3 years ago now. So and he was, hey, why don't you come back? And I was, okay, now that I have free weekends because I'm not at Amateur Lodge anymore. I can actually come again. But it's not something that it's my main focus anymore.
How did magic help? Because I think that a lot of young people, they want to do something creative. They want to go out and tour the world. They want to do all this stuff, but they feel like they're blocked in some way. So I've always been like, well, magic it up then. So how did magic help you create that life for yourself?
Well, I would say by manifesting my will, literally, because when I started XP8 in 2001, I was 5 years into doing magic at the time, and I was 4 years into my initiation in the AA. So there was something already happening there, and I was thinking, imagine the situation. I'm in Rome in the 90s and early 2000s. It's like this black hole because there's nothing at all. Being alternative, liking alternative music meant to go to this one little shop that doesn't exist anymore, this Istituzioni Musicali near the city center, where you would find, CDs imported from America at astronomical prices. I mean, it was very difficult to manifest that, okay? But I felt that was what I wanted to do. And I'm not sure if I can tell you actually, I never did anything magical to manifest it directly, but I would say that by working on myself towards my true will, I was manifesting it. And what happened there is that, in fact, starting from 2002 up until those 10 years, more or less, that was like almost like that scene I was in kind of exploded and had its own entire arc. Like by 2008, 2009, we were very successful. I was making a good living out of it, nothing else, and touring the world. And I would say, like, did I do it? Or, of course, I didn't do it myself. I knew that was what I wanted to do, and I was clearly going towards my true will. And then the inertia of the universe, as they say, like, helped me along. So if you feel like you're called to do something, if you think you want to be a musician, or you want to be an actor, or you want to be an artist, magic can and will help you, because it will give you the focus needed to just then go towards that direction, which from time to time might have all twists and turns, and then you think, the path is from A to B, but in fact it's from A to Z, B, and then you get to B, right? And magic will definitely give you the clarity of mind to go there. You can also, do rituals and try to invoke that into your life. And again, if you're doing it with the right mindset, and if you do it with without rushing it and thinking, okay, I'll do it and tomorrow I'll get it, it will definitely help you out. Absolutely. Even going back to what we were saying before, like even having a practice of simple rituals will definitely help you to strengthen your resolve to be yourself. And if you find that being yourself is really being a musician, like it was for me, up until it wasn't, that's interesting as well. Then you'll do it, and then whenever you feel like that experience is over, you'll be able to manifest the next chapter of your life, or whatever.
I'm thinking that you went into the world of the occult, like publicly after your music career.
Yes and no. While I was a musician, a full-time musician, I was also running this group in Italy called Labirinto Stellare, which means stellar maze, with another person. And we were running, I guess it was like the biggest forum on esotericism in Italy at the time. And we were really like the first of really speaking about Crowley and Kenneth Grant and Michael Bertio. We translated the works of Grant and Bertio in Italian and we published it. And this was like, between 2003 and 2006. So, and that's when I was already started my music career. Then I would say that I kind of went more into, I wouldn't say into hiding, but I didn't have the time to develop it as much as before or now. It wasn't really up until I stepped back from the music business that I went back 100% into magic as well, which is what I'm doing right now, of course.
So now that you're doing magic full time and it's a career and also your personal free time, I guess it's kind of devoted to magic as well. What are some things? Well, first of all, what does your day look like now? Like in terms of magical rituals or magical daily practices?
I tend to have, Star Ruby, which Star Ruby is kind of like my thing. It's a ritual that I really grown to love and to understand maybe on deeper levels, because let's say the Star Ruby is the thelemic LBRP, but there's much more than that, and the energies you pull are strictly thelemic energies, and they're like very empowered. So I keep like a daily practice of the Star Ruby. I keep a daily practice of tarot reading. Well, it's more like, meditating on getting a card out of the deck and meditating on it, and using the deck not just to read your future, but more about, okay, this card, what does it mean? Why today? And then trying to get almost using the card as a door to get into the card and have these shades and these colors and these figures like telling you something. And that's something, I would say those are the two things I do daily. Which is way less than what I've been saying before, because of course I almost don't do Resh anymore. I would say not in a overly ritualistic way. If you stop for a second when it's noon, and you stop for a second and think about what the station of the sun after you've done Resh for many years, that could be enough. But you got to get there, so don't skip the steps before. I would say, and then, the kind of work I do right now, with the students I have, or, with the work we're doing right now with the HGU, Ecclesia Gnostica Universalis, that is a magical practice by itself, because when you have like people coming to you asking questions and you engage with them on a daily basis, that becomes a magical interaction anyway. Again, when it comes to preparing for rituals, then it's different. Like I would say, like in the previous week leading to Halloween, when we did this public.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram. The pictures that you took.
Again, it was an invocation based on the Trilogy, but instead of being for one person, I had like four people from my group around me that each one would like embody one of the four gods. So yeah, Babylon and Therion and Nit and Hadith, and they were saying something back to me. Well, it's fine. My little Trilogy is like it's a personal thing. You do it on your own. And to get there, I went back into a very, very, very strict practice of 7 days of eating well, abstaining from sex, and all kind, and abstaining from certain things. I can't say that. and then doing some more like private practice, like something like the Mass of the Phoenix. It's a ritual that Crowley wrote as one person reenactment of the Gnostic Mass. So I would do that every day. And that means, like creating like the kings of light and burn them and eat them and throw some of your blood and put the blood into the cake. So it's a bit more complicated, but it's the kind of stuff. It's the kind of energy that I needed to get to prepare to the ritual. So it's very modular. From time to time, it can be just as simple as Tarubi and tarot reading, tarot meditation, if you wish.
Well, I read somewhere, speaking of other things that you had to abstain from, I read somewhere that you're a psychonaut.
Uh-huh. Yes. Well, that's what I did.
So, okay. Most
Okay.
people probably have never heard of that word. They'd be like, psycho? You mean like that movie Psycho or somebody psycho? And they've probably heard of astronaut, but not psychonaut. What is a psychonaut?
Well, psychonaut, it's a term that comes directly from the heyday of chaos magic, I would say. It's something that I took from Robert Anton Wilson, the Illuminatus Trilogy, which is something I suggest everybody to read because it's fantastic.
Wait, what is this book title again?
It's called the Illuminatus Trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shee. Psychonauts are basically people that try to explore the more subtle worlds through the use of drugs of various kinds, and by using drugs in a controlled ritualistic environment, making sure that which is very, very difficult, making sure you don't become addicted to it, because the moment you become addicted to it, you forsake your free will, and so basically you're just not using the drug anymore, the drug is using you, and that's something that I really explored a lot in my magical work when I was younger. Not as much anymore because, as you grow older, your body takes forever to recover from anything, even from I used to drink without having hangovers. Now I go out one night and the next day is miserable.
I'm out for a week. I'm out for a week.
Exactly. Like I said, I used to never have hangovers of any kind. So engaging in that kind of in more psychonaut experiences was easier. Now, it's middle age. It's a different time, but I can definitely say that it's been an incredible experience for me to really use all kind of drugs, bar from heroin, which I never found interesting. I never tried it, honestly. And also, I never liked needles, and that's not for me. Crowley used heroin as well, a lot. But everything else I did try, and I would say that this is going to be maybe contentious, but I would argue that if you haven't had that experience, it's difficult. It's way more difficult for you to understand how subtler planes works, and it's more difficult to see those things. I would say that if it's possible, I would suggest anybody to find, maybe to go to Peru or maybe go to Mexico and have a real ayahuasca ceremonies, because those are intense and very intense, physically as well. But the kind of insight you get when you come out of it, it really helps magic. It really, because then you can try and go back to those states without the drug. And you can reach the same states without the drug, but almost like the drugs are these things that nature put there for us to have almost like a gentle nudge towards that. Well, in case of ayahuasca or peyote, they're not so gentle. But yeah, I would definitely say that. So that's what psychonauts do. They use drugs in a ritualistic environment in order to open gates that are, I wouldn't say they're locked, but much they're very rusty. So if you try to push something that's very rusty, it can be, or you can use oil, and then it becomes easier to open the gate.
It's the oil.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like a lot of people in magic, they're becoming really big proponents of using drugs in a ritualistic way. Why do you think people are starting to get really, really into it? Is it because drugs are becoming more legalized?
I would say that yes, we are. I mean, despite living in a period of time where it seems like we're almost going backtracking, with all the far right shit that's happening in the world right now, it's also true that we do live in much more liberal times. First, we came to accept sex and accept difference, like let's say homosexuality or gender fluidity, and I would say that was the first step. The second step is obviously drugs, and the problem with drugs is that you really need to do it in the right way, and it's very easy for the average person to then find drugs as an escape from reality, like self-medication. If you use drugs to medicate yourself, you're doing it the wrong way. You need to be healthy first, and then approach something that commands respect, because it can fuck you up, literally. But once you do it in a healthy way, especially maybe with somebody that's gone there before and can guide you and control you, then it gives you the tools to just do it on your own. I also would like to say that should never be the end game. Drugs should be used, I would say, not at the very beginning, maybe. You medicate yourself, you heal yourself first. Then you get to a stage where you can use drugs, but then you have to move away from drugs again. Because if you always use crutches to walk, then you never really walk. So at some point you can remove the crutches and then start walking on your own. That doesn't mean that you never go back to them, but it's like the psychonaut experience. It's one that starts and ends.
I always like to ask my guests about 3 songs that represent their magic. Now, you're a DJ, so I'm guessing that the songs that you're going to suggest, I probably have never heard of, which is going to be super awesome. But yeah, what are 3 songs that represent you as a magician?
That's okay. I can think of 2 immediately, so I'll tell them and I'll think of the third. One is there's a song by Torrios called "Crucify."
Nothing to do is good enough for you. Crucify myself every day.
Which is, Torrios is one of my favorite. I love her. I always loved her. And that song really spoke to me because, it's about being different and about feeling different and then finding the strength to transcend that difficulty. Feeling different. And it's a great song, and that's one. The second one, it's this song by this Irish band called Therapy, ? And it's called A Moment of Clarity.
Thought of you tonight, the blank and starving eyes. In this one moment of clarity, blink the darkness in my eyes, and your lips like bruised velvet, your ass like Jesus' feet. Worth kissing,
which is a song about heartbreak and learning how to deal with it. And for me, it spoke to me because relationship has been like romantic relationship is something that's been like very important in my life. When I was growing up, I was really trying to find myself into like just validating myself through relationships. And then one day, after I had that experience of birth angel, I realized that the relationship that makes sense is the one with yourself. When you become really healthy and fully centered on yourself, that's when then you can open yourself to have healthy relationships with others as well. So and this song is called "A Moment of Clarity," which is it's very dark. It's a very dark song. So
did you have like a specific moment of clarity, and that's why that song speaks to you?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that I had it, especially because I transcended at some point exactly what they sing about, like having to deal with heartbreak and things that never work out, and then one day it's like, no, well, if you see them from another perspective. And that was like a very like magical alchemical transformation moment. The last song, I think it's this song from this British doom metal band called Paradise Lost. Here, it's a very like obscure B-side from their 1996 single of this song called "Forever Failure," and that was like this little like B-side. And actually, I have to do it here. One of the things here is it says "learning from the sorrow," which is something that that's the other part that like I try to escape sorrow and pain. Well, many people. What magic taught me is that only by facing those things you really fear, that there's sorrow and pain, only through that you can pass. And then you can revisit those bad experiences, but without having an emotional attachment. Well, the emotional attachment is there, but it's like it doesn't weigh you down.
So, in your career as a DJ, what 3 songs have you made? And they don't have to be magic related at all, but what 3 songs have you made that you feel really represent you, that you're really proud of?
One is called Your Love, which is from the last thing we have left. That's the last song we have done.
One summer's ripped his fruit. Will I see through these eyes once truth devours my soul?
There's this other song called Cutting and Drinking.
After party, full cake, cut and drink with XP8, blood, cocaine, MDMA. After party, full cake, cut and drink with XP8.
Cutting and drinking, bleeding and sinking. Time for a game of blood. Our cuts can feel so good. Cutting.
Which is about having a very interesting relationship with blood and sex. Which is, I would say that is the most famous songs we ever made, especially because these other bands I was in at the time, Brando, they did a remix of it, and it became a bit of a hit. Like if you go on Spotify, it has like thousands and hundreds of thousands of listens, and like people still listen to it to this day. And like I would say that's the song that I'm famous for. And so that's especially because it speaks of me of my more hedonistic times, and it was fun. It was fun. And I would say that the last one is this song by Faderhead, and it's called "Vanish."
I wish I was a star. Have yet to go that far. I gotta pray another light will disappear and vanish from this world.
Which is it's a song about about how can I say, like vanishing to yourself in a way, and finding that center to the point that you almost like dissipate yourself in the universe. Which this was kind of magic related, to be fair, but those 3 songs, those are the ones I'm most proud for.
You've sort of retired from full-time being a DJ, but you still do some dates, and you do still tour
Yes.
a little bit.
Like I said, I haven't done it. I mean, I retired in 2012. Then I kept doing dates till 2016, and I haven't done ever since, because the last 3 years now, almost 3. It's where I really got involved a lot into the audio activities, and that was another full-time job. Pretty much, like you were always at every weekend. Busy in a way, or either at official events or unofficial events, so you were always there. Honestly, like I said, like one of the good things about living the audio, which are not many, because I miss it. It's just that I could not be there anymore, as I told you before. But one of the good things is that I have free time again. Like,
Yeah, that's okay.
I can do other things again. I'm not stuck in London all the time.
Actually, I'm going to be in London next June for the Magical Women Conference.
Well, I am one of the sponsors of the conference. Like the Cousin Gnostic Universalis we're one of the sponsors of the conference. So we'll meet in London.
That would be awesome. Yeah. First time I'm going to be in London, so everybody's giving me all these suggestions of magical places to visit. I mean, that entire island, it seems very magical. I mean, all of Europe. Any place that has a lot of... Basically, the entire world is magical. But
I would say it's true that the UK, I would say UK and Ireland, is specifically very magical, possibly because being island and having had so much cultural relevance on the scene, you find magic everywhere here. London is magic everywhere. Something that I've been going into recently is psychogeography, especially working with David Southwell of Occult. Occult is this magical operation he's doing on Twitter. He created a fictional county here in England where all kind of strange stuff happens, and I met him like around a year ago because he's a fan of my music, so he contacted me, and I was like, wow, well, I'm a fan of your stuff, so let's start some working, and it's all about going around, walking around the city, walking around the country, and finding the spirits of the place and getting in communion with them, and then creating stories about them. So. Well, when you're going to be here in London, trust me, you're going to love it, because you'll find spirits of the place everywhere.
some projects that are coming up for you that you'd like the audience to know about.
Well, if definitely what we're doing with Ecclesia Gnostica Universalis is we're trying to create a new group here in London at first, and then maybe expand, whereby Thelemites, or people who know about Thelema, can come and experience, the more Gnostic side of Thelema, so the Gnostic masses, in a more relaxed environment. Because again, sadly, as it stands right now, things might change. If there's a leadership change, my perspective will change. But right now, I can't suggest anyone to join the audio any longer, because while there's some very good people in them, people in London are great, some people in America are great, people in Italy are great, there's also very bad, very nasty people. Florida, in Georgia, in Finland, there's people like in Austria. Well, the main person in Austria is a fantastic woman, but she had to deal with actual neo-Nazis. So, it's...
Yeah.
I cannot suggest people say, oh, well, I always say, oh, you want to know about that, come to the audio, and now I cannot do that. So I set up to do the HGU in a way that we can actually propose rituals also in a less like structured environment, because audio has a lot of rules, and some of these rules, I would have never been able to have this discussion with you if I was still an officer of the audio, because they frown upon reaching out to people, which for me it's completely against what the audio was supposed to do, because it is to promulgate the law and whatever. So what I'm excited about the HGU is that through working with Georgia van Ralt, which she's a PhD candidate at the University of Sussex, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I'm mistaken. But she's working on basically the unfortunate, and basically reinstalling the unfortunate as a figure in academia. She's a fantastic writer. And we just released Liber 2018 about Sophia, which is a new Gnostic Mass, or rather a new take on the concept of the Gnostic Mass, but from a feminine perspective. So while the Gnostic Mass has, a priestess and a priest and a deacon, and it's the priest, so the male energy, that does a lot of stuff. Lots of people have, over the years, criticized this to say, oh, it's a chauvinistic formula. I don't think so at all. Because when you study, you realize, the male and the female come together and they dissipate, so they become one. It is also true that why don't we have to have only one Gnostic Mass? I mean, we can write other rituals, and this is the first one. So to exploring the Gnostic Thelemic message from a strictly female perspective, which of course I didn't write because I'm a man that identifies as a man. I'm a heterosexual, so I'm like someone else should do it. And finally, it's happening. We also going forward. We are thinking of writing even more rituals and just adding to the gnosis, because what I said at the very beginning is that I would like to get to a point where Thelema is not Crowley, which doesn't mean that we need to kick Crowley out, because he was a great man, was a flawed man, but he was also a genius under many aspects, and I think it's absolutely fundamental for a Thelemite to read Crowley. But it's also fundamental, 114 years after the reception of the Book of the Law, to have new voices coming in. And this doesn't mean, for all the critics that will look at this video, this doesn't mean that I'm the new Crowley. I'm not. I'm just a clerk, as they say. But it's important to facilitate the growth of the current, and it's important to let people speak. And I've seen some criticism coming in for this book we put out, this new ritual we put out, and I welcome it, because it's great that people engage with it and say, well, you know what, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. Thelema is not about dogmas. It's about finding your true will and being free to do so. So yeah, that's what we should do, very much.
Lots of new things that I learned today, things that I didn't really expect to learn, like the fact that now I see Crowley as a DJ, like somebody who's taking so many different parts, appreciating them, putting them together, corresponding them in a way that kind of makes sense for his audience. That I didn't really expect to learn. Now I feel like I know a little bit more about the OTO. Before I just thought it was I don't know. For whatever reason, I thought OTO and Golden Dawn were the same thing, and then I was like, what, Freemason, So now I'm just like, okay, it's actually kind of like a gym. It's a place where you can exercise Thelema, which I didn't know before. So I kind of feel as though the things that we covered, I'm sure that we can talk about this forever and ever. I think just from the fundamental aspects of it, I feel a lot more clear about where Crowley and Thelema and OTO and all that is, and sort of now is a good time to take that foundation, and for myself and for people in the audience to then be like, okay, what's the next step? And you recommended some great books, so I'll definitely list that below in the description box. So guys, tell us what you think about anything that you've learned new about Crowley. I know the name, it's sort of like an institution. People have lots of strong opinions about Crowley. Did you have any sort of preconceived notions about who he was, and now you're just like, wait a second, maybe he's not like that? I know I definitely did. So let us know in the comments below.